Hello and welcome to Kerith Online. It is so good to have you with us. I hope you're doing really well wherever you are tuning in from today. We've made it, everyone. We've made it. It is the last week of the summer holidays. If you're school age, I'm sure you're disappointed. Maybe you've just gone back to school or you're going back next week. I hope it has been a great start to your new term. Or are you like me? Has it been 6 weeks of juggling kids and childcare and work, just like I'm doing right now, as you can see behind me? Okay, coming up later in the meeting, we have Simon Benham, our senior pastor, with a special message to the whole of our Kerith community, both our physical sites and our online community, you guys, and that's going to be coming up a little bit later.
In the modern world, there's not much space for life's big questions.
Oh my God.
Is there a map to this?
Not much time set aside for, why am I here?
I don't think there's more to life than each other. I think we are the point.
Is there more to life than this?
Some people dream of finding happiness through money.
I like cars.
Something awakened in me. It was a realization I would never find happiness where I was looking for it.
Where's God in all this?
Growing up, I've lost a lot of people. I would lack answers for that.
Are you real, God?
What's the point in praying?
What's the purpose behind all this?
We all have different perspectives on the meaning of life.
Does faith do more harm than good?
It takes a lot for me to trust someone.
The Alpha film series makes space for the big questions. Each episode unpacks a new topic and gives you time to explore what you think. Try Alpha.
So Alpha is an 11-week course we've run at Kerith for many years. It's run all over the world. It's brilliant. It covers faith, life, and God. Is a chance to ask all your questions, to find out more about all those three things. And we've got courses coming up across all of our sites. And the best way to find out where the nearest one for you is head to our website. So go to kerith.church/alpha. Okay, next up in our meeting, we're going to have some time of worship. Today we're being led by Dan from our West Wight site. He is our West Wight site pastor. So let me just pray before we go into that. Yes, Lord, I pray you will just bring us to a place of distraction-free this morning, that you will remove all distractions no matter where we are watching from today, and maybe just draw close to you. May you speak to us. May you give us wisdom. May you calm any fears we have. And I pray today is just significant for everyone watching wherever they are. Amen.
Song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you, oh Jesus, Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you, oh, we live for you. Holy, there is no one like you, there is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder, show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to the every song we could ever sing. Worthy of all the praise we could ever bring. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you, Jesus, you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. We live for you, Jesus. You're holy. There is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder. Show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. Trusting in you. I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation. I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation, and I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation. I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. You alone, oh, trust in you. Jesus, you alone. And holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder. Show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. I've carried a burden too long on my own. I wasn't created to bear it alone. I hear your invitation to let it all go. I see it now, I'm laying it down, and I know that I need you. I run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. So I'll run to the Father again and again and again and again. Oh, oh, oh. You saw my condition, had a plan from the start. Your Son for redemption, the price for my heart. I don't have the context for that kind of love. I don't understand, I can't comprehend. All I know is I need you. I run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. So I'll run to the Father again and again and again and again. Oh, oh, again and again and again and again. Oh, oh, oh. My heart has been in your sights long before my first breath. Running into your arms is running to life from death. And I feel this rush deep in my chest. Your mercy is calling out. Just as I am, you pull me in, and I know I need you now. I run to the Father, fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. So I run to the Father again and again. I run to the Father, fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart found a surgeon, my soul found a friend. So I'll run to the Father again and again and again and again. Oh, oh, again and again and again and again. Oh, oh, oh. Again and again.
Welcome back to Kerith Online. My name is Callum. It is so good to have you with us today. If you are new here, if you are new to our online community, or maybe you've been visiting some of our physical sites and you're watching online today, there are two brilliant ways to get connected with us. Number one, through the Connect With Us page on the website. If you head to kerith.church, look for the Connect With Us button, and on there they'll ask for a few small details, and someone from our church community will get in touch with you during the week and just see how we can make you feel more at home. Number two is our New to Kerith event, and on Tuesday the 6th of September in the evening, online we will have a New to Kerith event where you can find out more about the life of the church, find out who's who and what goes on, and some next steps to get connected even more with your community. If you're interested in that and want to sign up, again, head to kerith.church, look for the New to Kerith button, fill in your details, and you'll be emailed everything you need to know. Okay, now we're going to hear from our senior pastor, Simon Benham. And if that wasn't exciting enough already, there's some big news. Simon has a new jumper. Now, I know that might not seem like big news, but if you've been watching Simon a lot on a pre-record, you'll know that his shirt wardrobe is a little bit limited. There's a bit of a rotation that you might start to get familiar with, but this morning we have a new one, so look forward to that. But anyway, let me hand you over to Simon to hear his message.
Hi to all of our online gathering. It's wonderful to be with you today. Well, I'm coming to you today from this amazing venue. This is the Warfield Parish Church in Warfield, just outside Bracknell. And it was our production team. It was actually Josh Boyle, our brilliant production person for online, who thought of this as a venue and found it and agreed for us to be able to come here. But since the team said that we were coming here, I've been doing a bit of research on this building. And I think it's going to speak a couple of ways into what I want to say today. So I want to speak a little bit about the beginning of a new term. And we stand at the beginning of a new term, and it always has that sense, particularly this September term, of like new beginnings, lots of kids going into school and starting new years, and many starting new schools, people going off to university for the first time. It really feels like a fresh start. And I want to speak into that a little bit this morning. But I want to do that in the context of this space. And I want to speak about two things. First of all, I want to speak about elders for a little while. And then I want to speak about what I think God has for us in this next season as a church. So elders, well, let me tell you a little bit of the history of this building. This building was, the history of this building goes back to 1016 AD. So there has been a Christian community on this site for over 1,000 years. And this community began when a lady called Queen Emma gave her permission for a chapel to be built on this site. Now, I don't know about you, I'd never heard of Queen Emma before. She was French, she was from Normandy, and her dad married her to a guy called Ethelred the Unready, who was the King of England at the time. I'm not quite sure why he was called Ethelred the Unready, whether he was just very laid back or what that said about him, whether he knew that that was what people called him. But she was married to him in order to bring the French and English nations together. She was married at the age of 18 and became hugely influential. She was married to Ethelred for a season, then in 1016 he died, and she married a guy called Nut the Great. And he was Danish, and at that point she became not only the Queen of England, but also the Queen of Norway and of Denmark. And she was largely based in England and became hugely influential in the development of the church in our nation. And this church was built with her permission, with her blessing. And we've got a picture of her here. This is a picture of Queen Emma, which was done in about 1050. And it shows her receiving a book called the Iconium Emmae Regina, which was written in her honor for the impact and influence that she had on our nation. And I think Queen Emma is a wonderful reminder of the part that women have played in the life of the church over the centuries. We don't tend to hear those stories. We hear the stories of the men, but we often don't hear the stories of the women, but they're there if you listen for them. And it makes me so proud that we as a church, even though it's 1,000 years on from them, have come to recognize and affirm women are serving as elders in the life of our church. And I believe this is going to be a brilliant season for us as a church, as we see women just released in a whole fresh way and a new way into the life of Kerith. We've been on a big journey over the last 15, 20 years, with women being just involved in every area of ministry, and then this eldership is almost like the final piece to go. And a few people have been asking me, well, what are we doing about bringing on new elders in the light of the decision that we've made? And I want to let you know this morning about 3 people who are going to be stepping into, or who we're proposing as elders in this new season. The first one is Jackie Webber-Gant. Many of you will know Jackie. She with her husband Mike have been part of Kerith for many years. Jackie has an amazing prophetic ministry. She's been a business leader. She led our Farnborough site through Heather's maternity leave. Now is in charge of small groups. And the second person we're proposing as an elder is Shari Barrett. Many of you will know Shari through her leading worship, through the involvement she had in our whole conversation around race. Shari and her husband Andy are part of our Farnborough site. And we're proposing Shari as an elder. And then the third person we're proposing is Matthew Tickle. And Matthew, with his wife Tracy, has been part of our Kerith Windsor site since the very beginning. Works for Mars, the chocolate factory. If you ever fancy some chocolate, get hold of Matthew. And he again is just a brilliant figure in our community, someone who carries all the character attributes, some of the gifting that we would want in an elder. Now, these 3 have been coming to elders meetings for over a year now, as an opportunity for us to see how they fit into the team, for an opportunity for them to see what it would feel like to be an elder within Kerith. And all of us are now in a place where we want to move this forward. So the next step in the process is to come to you as the church and say, hey, we want to hear what you think. What are the positives? What do you see that's brilliant about these people? Are there any question marks that you have about them stepping into eldership? We want to make space and time to listen to those comments. So I'd encourage you, if you've got any thoughts, email them to me, simon.benham@kerith.church, and I'd love to hear that. And we'll, as an eldership, sit down, listen to any of that feedback, and assuming that nothing negative that would put a block to the process comes out in the next 6-7 weeks, we'll be affirming these folks as elders in the life of our community. So that's the first thing that being in this building makes me think about, Queen Emma and women in leadership. Second thing is just a reminder of just how amazing God is. 1,000 years on, over 1,000 years from where this place was begun, that this place is still here. And God is still moving. It's such a powerful reminder of how faithful God is, how good God is. That He is the God who keeps His promises. And we can sometimes think we're such a big deal. But standing here makes me realize that we're just a little bit of the painting of the canvas of what God has been doing in the church through history. And we are a little part of the picture to paint, but there's so much more. And being in this place should give us confidence that God is going to show up in all the challenges that we face. We face a lot of challenges at the moment as a society. We've got what I would call the 4 C's. We've got conflict going on. We think of Ukraine and all that's happening there. I was watching Ukraine in the news this week, and the plans to try and take back more of Ukraine from the Russians and all that's going on there in Ukraine. But we also seen conflict on a personal level. We've seen the Me Too movement. We've seen everything that's happened around race and the Black Lives Matter movement. And there seems to just be a lot of conflict in our world today. We've also lived with COVID. And although it might feel in many ways we're coming to the end of that season, I think we're going to be living with the impacts of COVID for some time to come. I remember hearing Tim Keller, a pastor in New York, speak. And he was saying that after 9/11, when they had the trauma of 9/11 in New York, all the churches and the church leaders and church members were fine for about 2 years afterwards. But it was after about 2 years that they began to experience the trauma of what they'd been through. And those experiences began to surface and have impact. People started quitting churches and quitting leading churches and having breakdowns and all sorts of stuff. And I still think we have a long way to go with coming through the impact of COVID and what those 2 years have meant for each one of us. So we have conflict, we have COVID, we have climate change. We had that incredible summer, haven't we, with 40-degree temperatures. And partly we can go, well, this is amazing and basking in that, but part of that is a message to us that our world is changing. that the sea levels are rising, that the temperatures are getting hotter, that the extremes of weather, we've been seeing floods all around the world happening recently, and we're dealing with that crisis. And then finally, we've got the cost of living crisis. Every day in our news, it seems that we've got news about the energy costs and the food bills, how that's impacting people, how we're going to get through the winter, how people are going to survive that. And being in this place is a wonderful reminder to me that we're not facing anything that hasn't been faced before. The 1,000 years of Christianity here, those people came through the Norman Conquest, 1066, when our nation was invaded. They came through multiple pandemics, the plague and other pandemics that impacted the nations without any antibiotics, without any vaccines. That's the word I'm looking for. They came through the whole trauma of Henry VIII, the dissolution of the church, the Reformation, the Industrial Revolution, the rise and fall of the British Empire, 2 world wars. So much history in those 1,000 years. And yet in all of it, God has been faithful. He's done it before, and he will do it again. And I want to remind us of the part that God has called us to play in society. I feel that this is a moment for us as a church to stand up and be counted, to make a difference in society, not to hide away, but to be seen and to be known in the world that we live in. I want to read some words from Jesus, which he preached on the Sermon on the Mount. This is Matthew chapter 5. He says this, "You are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It's no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." First of all, I want to just remind you that these words are spoken to us. When Jesus says you, he's speaking to those of us who've believed in Jesus, not just the people on that hillside, but all of us who are Christians through all of history. Jesus is speaking these words to ordinary people like you and me. He's not speaking them in a parliament, in a university, at a gathering of powerful business leaders, or to the religious elite, but to a crowd of thousands of ordinary, everyday people on a hillside. Men and women, young and old, educated and uneducated, rich and poor, with just one thing that marks them out, that they're believing in Jesus, that they've put their confidence and their trust and their hope in him. And if you're a follower of Jesus today, then you're part of this too. Jesus says that you are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. If you're online, why don't you write that in the chat? If you're in one of our site gatherings, why don't you just nudge the person next to them and just give them a bit of a poke and go, you're the salt of the earth. You're the light of the world. These things are true of us. And God wants us to be people who impact our world. The impact of salt is to preserve things. We think of salt as being, something that we sprinkle on our food to make it a bit more tasty. But actually in the ancient world, primarily salt was used for preservation. If you had a piece of meat and you wanted to preserve it, you would smother it in salt. You would put salt on all the open wounds on the piece of meat, and it would stop them going off. I was in Croatia this year, and we went to a restaurant out in the middle of nowhere, and it had all these massive pieces of meat hanging up, and they'd been there for a couple of years. And they'd literally just spread salt on them, and it just somehow amazingly stops them getting worse. So salt has the impact of preserving things, of stopping them getting bad. Light has a more positive impact. Light doesn't just stop things decaying. Light actually brings positivity. Light brings hope. Light reveals darkness and allows it to be resolved, allows it to be improved, allows things to change for the better. So Jesus says that we're these two things. First of all, we're salt. We're called in the world to stop it going into decay, to stop sin, to stop evil getting worse, but we're also called to shed light and actually bring the light of Christ into the world and into the situations that we're in. So I want to briefly say 3 things that I think we need to do in order to be salt and light in our world. First of all, we need to be Christ-centered as individuals and as church communities. Our light is a reflection of Jesus' light. We only have any light in us because Jesus is shining on us and then reflected from us. In John 1, Jesus says this, in him was life, talking about Jesus, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Jesus is the light. These words that Jesus is speaking are not spoken to everyone. He's not saying to everyone on earth, you're the light of the world. No, he's saying to his followers, those who are putting their confidence, their trust in him, those who've repented of their sin and turned to him, saying, no, you're the light of the world. And we're the light of the world because Jesus is the light. Similarly, Paul writes to the church in Corinth, we all who with unveiled faces contemplate the Lord's glory are being transformed into his image with ever-increasing glory, which comes from the Lord who is the Spirit. And as we gaze on Jesus, as we spend time with him, as we adore him, then we reflect him to the world, a bit like the moon reflects the sun. The moon doesn't have any light of itself. But if you ever go out on a full moon and there are shadows and, there's light because of the reflection. And I want to remind us that the way that we bear the greatest light, the way that we're most salty is to be most like Jesus. It's Dallas Willard who says that discipleship is becoming who Jesus would be if he was you. If Jesus showed up on planet Earth as you with your background and your emotions and your gifting and your character, how would he show up? Then that's who Jesus wants you to be. Who he would be if he was you. So the only way we're going to shed light, the only way we're going to be salt into our world is to be like Jesus. I want to encourage us as a church community, as individuals, to be not half-hearted in our devotion to Jesus. Let's not be lukewarm. Let's not be just going with the flow. Let's be passionate followers of Jesus with his will, doing his will in our lives as our greatest desire. Is there anywhere that you know that your life is out of step with the life that Jesus is calling you to? Is there anywhere that you know that you're not following him with all your heart and all your mind and all your soul and all your strength? Then sort that out. Deal with it in order that you might shine. So first of all, we need to be people who are Christ-centered. Secondly, we need to be faith-filled. You might feel so insignificant. I know that I do. You might feel so powerless. I know I do. But here's the reality, a little bit of salt can stop an awful lot of meat from going rotten. You can have a huge piece of meat and a small amount of salt can preserve that meat. You can have a tiny light and you can light up an enormous room. One of the things I love about light and darkness is it's not an equal battle. It's not like the Marvel films where you've got good and evil and you're not quite sure which one's going to win. If you shine light into darkness, the darkness goes. Light always overcomes darkness. And you might feel like, well, I'm the only Christian in my family, or I'm the only Christian in my workplace, or I'm the only Christian in my school or my university or wherever else I might be. But you have light, and light overcomes darkness. And let's be confident in God that he is with us. If he's for us, who can be against us? Let's not be afraid to be who he has called us to be. I love it when Jesus says, you don't light a lamp and put it under a bowl. There's been loads of Christian debate about what does the bowl mean. The bowl just means something that covers up the light and stops you seeing it. We don't light a light and put it under a bowl. I don't light a candle and put it under a bowl. We don't put a side light on in one of our rooms and put a bowl over it. It would just be nonsense. You light a light and you put it up somewhere high so the light spreads, so the light is seen. Let's as people have the faith and the confidence to, not in an arrogant way, but in a confident way, be confident in who we are in Jesus. Let's be unafraid to tell people that we believe and trust Jesus, to talk about the difference that he's made in our lives and our worlds, to be willing to pray for people, even to be willing to invite people into the situations that we're in. I've been working with Isaiah 61, and we have this progression of share your life. Just share life with people, and then share your faith. Talk to them about what Jesus has done for you. And then share Jesus. Challenge them to take a next step. Let's be faith-filled as we share Jesus. He is the light. He is the one who will make a difference in our world. And let's be willing to share our faith and be full of faith as we pray for people in the world. I think one of the most powerful things that we can do is to pray, to invite God into people's situations and circumstances, to pray to people who are struggling in all sorts of ways, whether it's a health thing or a job thing or a relationship thing or whatever it might be, to be praying for the people around us, inviting God into those situations. So let's be Christ-centered, let's be faith-filled, and finally, let's be outrageously generous. I love what Jesus says here about our good deeds. He says this, in the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. What are good deeds? Well, good deeds are good deeds. They're going out and doing things that bless people, that help people, that make a difference in people's lives. I think as we hit the cost of living crisis, we're going to have an amazing opportunity to do good deeds in our society. We're looking at whether we open up some of our buildings as warm places and warm spaces where people who are struggling to meet their homes can come during the day and just find a warm place to have a tea or a coffee. I know that through our debt counselling and through our food bank, we're going to be increasingly helping people in our communities who are struggling, who are making a decision about whether to heat or to eat. We're going to be helping people in all those sorts of situations. I would be encouraging us to do that individually. If you've got neighbours or friends or relatives who are struggling, hey, help them if you're in a position to help. And let's do it corporately. I want to encourage those of us who are going to get the £400 heating allowance. If you don't need it for yourself, then why not give it into the life of our community? Why not donate it into the life of the church that we can then redistribute that money to other people who do need it? Katrina and I are going to do that, and I want to encourage others to be doing the same. So let's, as a community, but let's also as individuals, model outrageous generosity. So let's be Christ-centered as we head into the autumn. Let's have our focus on Jesus. He is the light. Hey, we know what the problem is in our world. The problem behind all of these situations is sin. It's our own sinful nature. It's the broken nature of our world. It's the evil in our world is what causes all of these situations that we're looking at, all of these situations that we're experiencing. And we not only know the problem, we know the solution. The solution is Jesus Christ, his death and resurrection, and the power for transformation that was released into our world through that redemptive act. So let's be Christ-centered, church. Let's be focused on Jesus. Let's be faith-filled. Let's be confident in Christ as we step into that world. And let's be outrageously generous as individuals and as a church community. So to our wonderful online community. I know people are gathering for all sorts of different reasons online. Some of you are watching this every week, and we love having you as part of us through online. Some of you are just catching up with this when you can't make a physical site. Just want to say that this is such an important part of who we are as a community, and we want to look to develop it. We'd love to hear ideas if you have thoughts around how we can develop and grow our online presence. We know for many people this is their first step into Kerith before they come to a physical site, and we want to think how we can maximize and harness all of those opportunities. This is one of the ways that we want our light to shine, is not just physically, but virtually as well, through the wonders of all that we can do online. So I just want to encourage you to let your light shine this week. What does it mean for you to be salt? What does it mean for you to be light in your local area, in your community, in your workplace, in your street, amongst your family, amongst your relatives? What does that look like? Hey, let's be Christ-centered. What does it look like to focus on Jesus? Let's be faith-filled, and let's be outrageously generous. Hey, wonderful to be with you. Have a great rest of the day, a great rest of the week, and see you again soon.
that once was crowned with thorns is crowned with glory now. The Savior knelt to wash our feet. Now at his feet we bow. The one who wore our sin and shame, now robed in majesty. The radiance of perfect love now shines for all to see. Your name is victory. All praise will rise to Christ our King. Your name is victory. All praise will rise to Christ our King. The fear that held us now gives way to him who is our peace. His final breath upon the cross is now alive in me. Your name is victory. All praise will rise to Christ our King. Your name is victory. All praise will rise to Christ our King. By your Spirit I will rise from the ashes of defeat. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. In your name I come alive to declare your victory. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. By your Spirit I will rise from the ashes of defeat. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. In your name I come alive to declare your victory. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. The tomb where soldiers watched in vain was borrowed for 3 days. His body there would not remain. Our God has robbed the grave. Our God has robbed the grave. Your name is victory. All praise will rise to Christ our King. Your name is victory. All praise will rise to Christ our King. By your Spirit I will rise from the ashes of defeat. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. In your name I come alive to declare your
Wasn't that brilliant from Simon? Thank you so much for sharing with us today. If you ever want to catch up with any of our previous messages from, well, going back years now, you can find them all on our Kerith YouTube page. So just head over to YouTube, search Kerith Community Church, find our profile, there's playlists, and there's all sorts of other content you can find. So head over there. And while you're there, why don't you go ahead and press the subscribe button? All that will mean is that you get some notifications when new videos go online so that you can keep up to date with any new things going up. That's it from us today. We hope you have a fantastic day wherever you are, and we'll see you soon.